Hello there and welcome into another edition of the JMac Podcast as we answer a very important question. Should the NBA allow its players to boycott? This is something that I've given a lot of thought, and I hope that before we knee-jerk react, that before we cast judgment on other people, before we turn ourselves to anger and to frustration and we start saying we're going to boycott the NBA or whatever else is going through your mind, I hope that you will take a minute and that you will watch this entire podcast or listen to it. I hope, and I just would ask, if you take a minute and step back and put yourself in the shoes of somebody else. That's what I want to do. That's really what I hope that we can achieve. It's something that we're not doing a lot right now of in our society. We're not turning to empathy. We're not seeking understanding. We're seeking judgment and attacks. And when people question us or our beliefs or they do something that makes us feel uncomfortable, we turn around and we get our claws out and we attack. Can I just ask that you step back for a minute and consider some factors here? Okay, that's all I'm asking. And then you come to your own conclusions, as always. I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm here to share with you my thoughts and my opinions. And if it enlarges you, if it edifies you, if it makes you think, if it makes you ponder, then fantastic. If it solidifies your current beliefs already, then great. If it helps the dialogue and the conversation go forward, then that's great too. If you're not aware of what happened, I've watched I think every NBA playoff game since they returned to the bubble. I'm a huge NBA fan. I've been watching with my son. We've been watching every single game. We were looking forward to broadcast games today. And it turns out that today, first the Milwaukee Bucks decided not to come out of the locker room. And they decided that they were going to boycott play today. And then the NBA announced that all 3 scheduled games today would be canceled. All because of how players are feeling and because of the message that they want to send surrounding the shooting of Jacob Blake in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Here's a little bit more about that.
On the NBA, Eric Chemney's got the latest on the Newsline. Eric.
Hey, Melissa, that's right. So the NBA, the 3 playoff games that were going to take place tonight in Orlando, none of those games are going to happen. They're postponing the entire slate of games because the first one was supposed to tip off an hour ago. The Milwaukee Bucks decided not to take the court. They were going to boycott the game in the light of the police shooting that happened earlier this week. So that led to a chain of events here where the NBA decided, okay, none of these games are going to happen, and that's just been breaking news here in the last few minutes. No word yet what happens tomorrow, what happens to the rest of these series. Remember, these players are stuck in a bubble. The NBA is trying to get these playoffs completed without taking too much time, working with their partners Disney and AT&T. But tonight's games, all of them off the table after the Milwaukee Bucks saying they would boycott their Game 5 tonight.
Now, there's a possibility that the NBA season is done. These players may decide that it's over, and they're willing to take the financial hit to get their message across. So I don't know how you feel about that. I heard it, and I listened, and I watched, and my son and I, as I said, have been watching. The NBA has been very vocal about social justice. On the backs of all their uniforms, they have Black Lives Matter and equality and say her name for Breonna Taylor. On the NBA court, it says Black Lives Matter. And so if you're somebody who's been frustrated with that, you may have stopped watching the NBA. I didn't because I personally don't have a problem with the name Black Lives Matter. There's been some questions about the organization, but it's hard to know what is really going on there. I see people with the knee-jerk reaction to Black Lives Matter, and I always ask the question, well, do all lives matter? And they say yes. Well, if all lives matter, then Black Lives Matter. If they said only Black Lives Matter, then I would have an issue with that. But they say Black Lives Matter, and that's what they want to highlight. And there's some pretty profound reasons why they want to focus on that and reiterate that point. So I've chosen to watch the NBA, and I love the show Inside the NBA. And they too have been highlighting what happened to Jacob Blake. So what I want you to do is I want you to hear something, because I think the tipping point was a statement made by former NBA player and NBA coach Doc Rivers. And we were watching this as it played on Inside the NBA. And it really affected me. Now, I'm going to caution you here, because Doc Rivers goes after the Republican Party. I'm going to ask you to look past that. I know that it's going to be hard for some of you. But what I want you to focus on is the raw emotion here. And ask yourself if this guy is being political or if he is emotionally wounded by what happened to Jacob Blake. Now, if you haven't watched the video of the shooting of Jacob Blake, I don't want to encourage you to watch it. I'm not going to show it in this podcast. It's too hard to watch. You can go and seek it out yourself. But basically, there's a scuffle. Police are trying to get control. Jacob Blake decides to walk around the front of his car and open the driver's door. Who knows what he's doing? A witness said he thought he was going to check on his kids. His 3 kids are in the car. And as he opens the driver's side door to get in the vehicle or whatever he was doing, the police officer decides to point blank aim his gun at his back and shoot him. And fortunately, he survived, but he's probably going to be paralyzed for the rest of his life. Now, I've thought to myself, I always try to put myself in the shoes of the people involved, of Jacob Blake, of the police officers. And I sit there and I say, what was going through this officer's mind? What possible thoughts? Was he just out to kill a black man that day? Some people think that. I don't ever want to go that far. I don't know what was in this officer's heart. I don't know his history. Did he think, was he just frustrated that this guy wasn't following commands, so he decided, I'm going to shoot him? Did he think that Jacob Blake was opening the door and getting a weapon? Did he think that maybe he was reaching for a gun? I mean, it's hard to put yourself in this situation and know what was going through the police officer's mind. Obviously, the police officers can't speak. They don't allow them to talk to the public. So we don't know what the officer's perspective was. We just have the video to know. So I tried to break it down, and I have a hard time believing that 3 police officers couldn't subdue this guy without shooting him in the back multiple times, like 7, 8 times. So I watched it and I was frustrated. Just like I watched the George Floyd video, and I'm like, what are you doing? What is the purpose here? And those of you who have listened to me for a long time and listened to this podcast, you know that I've been really worried that all police get a bad name because of the actions of the few, and that we don't judge all people in blue from the actions of the few, because that's the very behavior that we're trying to avoid with black people. We don't want to judge all black people based upon the color of their skin or the actions of certain black people that we've seen. That type of judgment, that type of stereotyping should not be acceptable against any group for any reason. As I've said, every person should be considered innocent until proven guilty and given an opportunity of due process in a court of law. And so, I mean, this is difficult for me to watch and to look at. And I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that we have to keep seeing these videos. I'm frustrated that we can't get past that. But my perspective is totally different than a member of the black community who is watching this. Because this feels like an extension of every single thing that has been put upon African Americans in our society since day one. And so when you listen to Doc Rivers, what I want you to focus in on is that he's hurt. He's wounded. He starts to tear up. And every single person that I've seen in the NBA talk about this, it's that they're hurt. Now, well, I'll talk about it after, but listen to Doc Rivers. And again, please don't turn it off just because you hear him go after Republicans and what they're doing. Focus in. Ask yourself, what is Doc Rivers going through? Ask yourself, what are Black Americans going through as they see these videos? Because whether or not it's reality that there is a statistical rash of police killings across the country, perception is very important. Anyway, listen.
As far as the other situation, it's just so sad. What stands out to me is just watching the Republican convention, and they're spewing this fear, right? Like, all you hear is Donald Trump and all of them talking about fear. We're the ones getting killed. We're the ones getting shot. We're the ones that we're denied to live in certain communities. We've been hung. We've been shot. And all you do is keep hearing about fear. It's amazing why we keep loving this country, and this country does not love us back. And it's really so sad. Like, I should just be a coach. And it's so often reminded of my color. It's just really sad. We got to do better. But we got to demand better. Like, it's funny. We protest, and they send riot guards, right? They send people in riot outfits. They go to Michigan with guns, and they're spitting on cops, and nothing happens. The training has to change in the police force. The unions have to be taken down in the police force. My dad was a cop. I believe in good cops. We're not trying to defund the police and take all their money away. We're trying to get them to protect us, just like they protect everybody else. I didn't want to talk about it before the game because it's so hard. Like, to just keep watching it. That video, if you watch that video, you don't need to be black to be outraged. You need to be American and outraged. And how dare the Republicans talk about fear? We're the ones that need to be scared. We're the ones having to talk to every black child. What white father has to give his son a talk about being careful if you get pulled over? It's just ridiculous. And it just keeps going. There's no charges. Breonna Taylor, no charges, nothing. All we're asking is you live up to the Constitution. That's all we're asking for everybody, for everyone. Thank you.
This is a man who's hurt to the core. And I want you to ask yourself, if you were part of a group and a member of that group or members of that group kept getting killed. You kept seeing these videos of senseless murders, of extreme police action. What if these were Mormon LDS people, and every few weeks you turned on the news and there was another Mormon being shot by police, or Republicans? What if that's who it was? I mean, would you sit back and say, "Oh, that's not a thing. That's not real"? Or would you feel attacked yourself? Would you come to a point where you start to think, this is a coordinated effort, and it's part of something that we've fought our entire life? It is rich to see somebody standing at the Republican convention and saying that the United States does not have a racism problem. Because if you ask members of the black community about their daily occurrences, are you going to literally look them in the face and say, that's not real? Oh, that's not happening to you? Or are we going to listen? We don't have to agree with everything that they're saying. But nothing is ever going to change in this society if both sides just get angry at each other and just, oh, that's not real. Oh, what you're experiencing, that's made up. You know, we used to, in this country, in our history, have leaders who, they tried to lead us to a better place. And now we're led to the most dark place in our soul, to hatred and anger and no attempts at understanding or empathy. The members of the NBA are hurting. The members of the black community are hurting. Now, you can sit back and say that their fear and their pain is not real. But I just wonder if you were in their shoes. It's pretty easy to say, you're overhyping it. That's not real. But what does that get us? You know? There is truth here in what they're feeling and what they're seeing. Maybe it's not all, you know, what their perception is. But we're not going to heal this country by sitting there telling them to stop feeling what they're feeling. And NBA players, they're involved in this game. And they're starting to realize that that's just a game. And that there are much bigger issues at play here. And I think that a lot of them mentally, they can't keep their head in the game. Because they literally feel like there's a group of people out there who want to kill them. Is that reality? I tend to think most police officers are good. But I can't explain these events. And that they keep happening over and over and over again. Then I go to watch the Inside the NBA, and here's Kenny Smith. Inside the NBA is one of my favorite shows. I watch it every chance I get. And this is Kenny Smith in response to the NBA canceling the games today.
Right now, my head is like ready to explode, like just in the thoughts of what's going on. And I don't know if I'm even appropriate enough to say it, what the players are feeling and how they're feeling. And I haven't talked to any of the players. But like coming in, even like driving here and getting into the into the studio, hearing calls and people talking. And for me, I think the biggest thing now is to kind of, as a black man, as a former player, I think it's best for me to support the players and just not be here tonight.
He just took off his microphone.
And figure out what happens after that. I just don't feel equipped to do that.
And I respect that.
So he gets up and he walks off the set. My friends, there is a segment of our population, of Americans, born in this country, have every right to be here. And they're hurting. And if our response is hatred and anger and frustration and telling them it's not real, I don't know where that gets us. Now, I don't know what an NBA boycott does. I mean, it gets it more in the media, but I think that we've had so much media coverage of the social injustice issue. I don't know how much more is going to make a difference. I honestly don't know what the changes are here. I think that a lot of changes are being made across the country. Unfortunately, this is in a lot of ways an issue that cities have to deal with. Not the federal government, but cities. That local municipalities have to deal with. And they're slowly coming on board. So I don't really know what difference that this makes. I think that anybody who's watching the NBA at this point is fully on board with what the NBA has been doing and the social injustice issue. Because how could you watch it if you weren't? It's on every jersey. It's on the floor. It's at every commercial break. It's at every halftime. And so I don't really know if this is going to make a difference. But that's not the defining issue for me. The issue is that these people are in pain. And we are not. I don't know. Just, can we try to put ourselves in the shoes of other people? Can we try? Put ourselves in the shoes of police officers who are being judged by the actions of the few. Put ourselves in the shoes of black people across this country who are forced to watch yet again another member of their community senselessly killed. If we're not willing to do this as a nation, we're done. We're cooked. It's over. And the entire experiment, what was it for? We're supposed to be getting better. We're supposed to be, my Christian faith tells me, we're supposed to be filled with compassion and love. And that we shouldn't be looking at people and casting judgment on them. That we should be finding ways to understand. And we need that on both sides. And we're not getting it. Instead, we're being taught fear and anger. The road we're on, it's got to change, my friends. It's got to change.